Welcome to California in Focus. I'm Keegan Kernodle. Joining me today is the Center Square's LA-based reporter, Kenneth Schrupp. Today we're talking about this legislation that California passed that's creating a subsidy for news organizations that would be overseen by the governor's office. Kenneth, what are experts saying about this?
And media leaders are sharing concerns that this is going to erode the incentive for news organizations to hold the government accountable for its actions. If you are relying on the government for support, if you're relying especially on a project that is run under the governor's office, it would seem difficult, perhaps challenging, to question what the government is doing, question what the governor is doing, and still expect to receive some of this money. This is $10 million in state funding that is matching a $10 million promised donation from Google. So there would be at least $20 million for this project this year. It seems like there are expectations that this funding is going to be sustained in some way. This wasn't a continuous appropriation. That is an appropriation with new money issued each year. We'll see what Google is willing to give or others are willing to give next year and what the state is willing to give, because the state has said it's not going to pay more than whatever private donors decide to put in. Something worth noting, though, is that the state would actually still control what the money from the private donors goes towards. And all of this would be under the governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, who is appointed by the governor. The director right now is Dee Myers. So who is Dee Myers, the current Newsom appointee? She's a longtime Democratic activist and official. She was previously White House press secretary under President Bill Clinton. She famously was the basis for the character CJ in The West Wing. And she has since served as the executive vice president of worldwide corporate communications and public affairs at Warner Brothers. She is a communications managing director at Glover Park Group. She's been a CNBC co-host and a Vanity Fair contributor and political commentator. So this appointee is who would have control over this funding. And there's also a 9-member advisory group, but the legislation doesn't give the advisory group any formal powers beyond being an advisory group. So it doesn't really have any power. And all those 9 advisory members are appointed by the director of this department. So Dee Myers in this case, or her successor. So there are concerns that there is very little accountability for this, or at least that's what was described by this news organization called Rebuild Local News. It's a nonpartisan organization that represents more than 3,000 newsrooms, including hundreds in California. RLN had supported some earlier measures from the state that were like this, but it does not seem to be supporting this measure. RLN said that it has, quote, press independence concerns with empowering the executive branch to pick winners and losers, among other issues. Now, in response to this story, we have seen a lot of state leaders and legislators start to share this story in response to other news in the state. The governor has become quite vocal against the Trump administration, especially his Twitter account, and a lot of his posts in the last few days have focused on the firing of Jimmy Kimmel and the need for media independence. And so we did see a lot of state leaders share this piece as a response and as a contrast to what the governor is saying and what the governor might soon be doing. This bill has passed the state legislature and is headed to the governor's desk for approval. It could be signed into law in the next few days, or it could be vetoed, but we'll see.
Well, Kenneth, thanks for your reporting on this. It'll be interesting to see where this goes if it passes the governor's desk. Readers and listeners can keep up with this story and more at the Center Square, and we'll be continuing to follow this. Thanks for joining another episode of California in Focus.